De Niro's casting as the creature is distracting. Although he works hard to suggest a misunderstood loner, we can never forget it's De Niro under all that latex. This week, at 49%, we review Mary Shelley's
Frankenstein!
That's how he says it in the movie. Don't
awesome.
Don't come at me.
No.
That's just how he says it. I didn't say it.
Nope.
He said it.
Nope. Maybe don't come at you. You just did it at the front.
Yeah, that's true. All right, bring it on. I take accountability for this movie.
Take accountability for this movie. Bail.
Just so we're clear, with this run of How Low Can We Go, we have been bouncing back and forth between Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes.
We're going to do that all the way down.
So this is 49% on Metacritic. It's also 49% on the audience review of Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah, it's kind of like a little double whammy action there.
So this movie stars everybody.
Everyone's in it.
Everyone's in this movie. No, I mean the cast is absurd. De Niro, Kenneth Branagh, Helena Bonham Carter, Ian Holm, Aidan Quinn, and John Cleese.
We did not know
props
it was him.
to that. That's amazing.
He's kind of been sucking lately, and so this movie he was great.
No, I mean it was just props to whoever arranged to make it so that he was completely unrecognizable.
I did not know it was him. He
plays Frankenstein's evil mentor, which we'll get to, but is a cool thing that this movie added the most.
You know who I thought it was? I don't know this actor's name off the top of my head, but whoever the bad guy is in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 when they go back in time to like
they go back in time. That reminds me because Amityville in Space just dropped, and it just reminds me how franchise.
Oh, I wanted to watch the trailer for that. I saw the art for it, and it looked crazy.
It does.
It
looks
really
good, crazy actually.
All right, so how did we come to this movie?
Okay, so the background of this movie is you're a huge Bram Stoker Dracula the movie fan. I am. I really like that movie. I like the horror fiction side. I read a lot of horror fiction growing up, so
I even have Frankenstein on
the
bookshelf.
You got it.
He's like looking at us while
staring at us while we're and the horrified Universal. So I like the stories, and then I watched Universal monster movies as a kid. So anything with these properties is going to be really exciting for me before it comes out. But I've never watched this movie, and the reason I never watched it was the reception for it was so disheartening that I never wanted to be that disappointed to watch it. So I've just avoided it all this time.
It's
How about you? Heard you?
Yeah, no, I mean I've always known about it.
Right.
And it's always
why did you not watch
it? I don't know, dude. It was one of those things. Well, first of all,
it's longish.
It's kind of long, but Bram Stoker's Dracula is pretty long too. But like, I don't know. There was just something about I'd always seen Robert De Niro's Frankenstein makeup. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was always kind of like, I want the bolts. I want the, I want the big giant green forehead. I want all that. I honest to God, I don't know. I really don't know why I haven't seen it. There was no driving force.
Right.
Like if I was brand new to horror movies. Mm-hmm. Someone's like, I need to see these Dracula movies. Are any of them any good? And you'd be like, yeah, watch the Bela Lugosi one. Definitely check out the Bram Stoker's one. He's got funny hair in it, but it's really good. Mm-hmm. You could even say some of the Dracula's daughters. Like, there's a lot that you could do. You could do there. With Frankenstein, you got the original.
Interesting.
And I think the last time we did one where...
So you don't think the franchise supports it enough to kick it into your radar the way a Dracula... I mean, there's a lot more vampire movies than...
Yeah, there's really no driving force for it.
And it also failed. So because it failed, it wasn't being aired all the time on
the other one won Oscars.
Right. Okay, so we missed it for the reason everyone missed it. All right, so now we've arrived at How Low Can We Go? We are in the 40s.
Yeah, this is a new bracket.
This is a new bracket. And this must be how you felt about Malevolent, because I hated this. But there are things I can fight for in this movie, and you too. So
strangely enough, like this movie starts out really bad. Like this movie, it's
weird. I loved how it started.
That's
interesting.
No, like it for me, the movie didn't pick up until we got to Frankenstein enrolling in a college at the ripe young age of 47. And to me,
it was like MTV music video bad. Like these people were way off.
It was a little weird, but for me, the movie started off really bad, but then once he went off to college and the cool lab scenery started appearing more and more, that's when the movie got a little bit better and a little bit more interesting. Overall, this movie is bad, but it's fun to watch.
So there's a lot of TikToks hidden inside this movie, and I find that interesting. There's like, how do you sew up a body in this time period, or how do you preserve a body part in this? When they started to do the lab stuff, it was like there were these little segments that could have just basically been like gruesome this age TikToks, like of how to do gruesome things in a lab with various body parts, and those were cool, right? Like and it was edited so badly, they were so chopped up that it kind of felt like TikToks, which almost probably was worse for the movie then, and now it plays a little better. I don't know. That part of the movie is good.
Yeah, so that brings us to order of discussion.
Yes.
So this is what we talked about in Texas Chainsaw, and it's kind of a new thing that we're throwing around. Yeah, where we kind of just picked the 3 things that stood out to us the most, and it kind of helps us filter through what we liked, what we disliked about the movie. Yep. The first thing on there that I think you and I both agreed on is the labs. The labs in the school, like John Cleese, I still can't believe that's him, to be completely honest. Like, I kind of want to rewatch a few scenes and be like, are you sure? Are you sure that's him? It didn't look like him.
It was cool.
His like secret lab at the college with all the textbooks, and I think it was like a monkey's hand that he had hooked up to all the electrical stuff.
That was a great bit.
I thought that looked really great. I thought
because the monkey's hand's like disembodied, just floating there, and they're sparking it and making it twitch, and it goes full Calvin from Life once they really pump it with juice. Like it starts breaking it's holding this guy's hand, it starts breaking his wrist or whatever. It's cool. I
thought that looked really great. The attic laboratory, I thought was really it was really kind of neat.
It was a good twist on. It was more practical than the old Frankenstein lab. It was more functional. It had a body delivery system that was hilarious.
Yeah, he had you said it was like the Rube Goldberg kind
of. It was like a Rube Goldberg.
Yeah.
It was like a vacuum tube thing at an old post office. So you just shoot the body over to where you need it. It was cool. Cool too.
I really did enjoy the way it looked, more so than the house or the manor, whatever you want to call it, because Alex and Jenny, we had made some dinner, and then you and I started watching the movie, and they went into the living room. They could still where they could still see the TV, and we were all kind of clowning, saying that the way the house looked kind of felt like a high school / bad college play. Like, it just looked like everything was very painted stagey, by stage hands. Totally. Like, it didn't look good at all. It looked terrible. So in comparison, I thought the labs, they looked great.
It was a really interesting choice too, because I didn't realize until I watched this movie that the old labs are so angular. They're all like edges and angles and whatever, and he went with very globular. Everything was like brassy, round, right? And it was it was like, if you're an actor and they give you the role of Hamlet, like the first thing you got to do is like, how am I going to do the to be or not to be speech? Like, that's the hill you got to climb, right? You got to figure out, you're going to be judged on that, like, one thing, right? So when you're doing Frankenstein, the lab design is one of the hills you got to climb, and they nailed that in this, I got to admit.
No, it looked really good. And also, so I didn't watch the movie because I had seen the creature makeup of Robert De Niro as the monster, but it did kind of
the monster,
the monster. Well, he kept talking because like his lips were sewn up. So when he first said Frankenstein, it was always like Frankenstein, like it was kind of like with a lisp, and so. But he was trying to say it menacing, and it came out like really kind of silly. But I will say, like, as the movie went on, I kind of dug it. It's nowhere near as iconic as Boris Karloff's, obviously, but
no, you could see what they were going for.
Yeah.
When it got hazy and his like insane eyes were staring out from that really scarred up face, you could see what they were going for. It just almost never worked. But
I liked the scars.
Yep.
He kind of had like, he was kind of deformed looking from all the the surgeries.
Yeah, they liked the design so much they did it again. For no reason.
Yeah, that was
literally no goddamn reason.
That part I do not agree with. But he also had like the cool trench coat. Like he had a look that I think had some kind of weight to stand on its own. So
it wasn't a total disaster. I agree.
It wasn't a total disaster. Second order discussion, and I do agree with this as the second thing. The Arctic exploration aspect of the movie.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if you're like me, like I just saw Frankenstein a couple years ago when we went to see it at the Egyptian Theater during the Monster Marathon, and I've never read the book. I had no idea that an Arctic exploration was even remotely in,
because it's not really heavily featured.
Yeah, but I really loved what it stood for in comparison to what Frankenstein was doing. So I mean, that was the part you really liked. Like what resonated with you?
Yeah, because it's something that this movie was able to point out to me that the other movies didn't, which is cool. You know, it was a cool moment for this movie. I was rooting for this movie to be better than I feared that it was going to be, right? And the Arctic thing is interesting in that it stands for the extremes of the time. Like, until they show you how insane these journeys were to try to do, you don't really get it, right? It was suicide. It was literally the dumbest to wake up one morning and be like, I live in, like, you know, London, and I want to go to the South Pole. Is you might as well just like walk in front of a coach of horses or whatever, right? Because you're not going to make it. You're going to die. Like, the insane things they would have to do. The ship grounds in the ice in the beginning of this movie, and that's just it. It's just over for the whole ship. It's over, and then you're just there for, like, you got to walk home now, right? You're going to chop up your ship and try to survive. So when you see how extreme this is, you realize that the captain of an enterprise like that is taking his crew to their death, right? And Frankenstein, and he thinks it's for a better good. He literally is like, I'm gonna find a new route that lets us do things easier, and it's gonna change people's lives. He's trying to get to the South Pole.
And he wanted his name.
He wanted his name, right? The name thing was
a
big deal, right? And but also he thought there were good effects societally from this, and so does Frankenstein. He thinks he's curing death, right? Is the best thing you can do.
Well, his mom dies, and then he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna fix this problem.
Right, he's right, exactly. Yeah, no one else's mom's ever died before that.
That was
unfortunately, but thank God this happened to him, so he could shut death down for us. Like, but
world's popular
with his
mom.
With his unique motivation. But so he, you know, it's a suicidal thing to attempt. And Frankenstein, as soon as he starts to do this, he meets a guy who tried to do this exact thing and walked away from it. He's like, no, don't go there. And he goes there anyway, and he ends up like the captain of the ship, like literally in the same place, looking the same way, with the same disaster.
All haggard and frostbitten.
And at the end of the movie, the captain changes his mind and says, I'm going home. He turns back. He's not going to the pole. So if Frankenstein had changed his mind and not done this to this corpse, he'd be a prosperous scientist married with children in Geneva.
I'm Victor Frankenstein of Geneva
right now. So it's not until you see how bad the Arctic stuff is to try to do, and no other movie that I remember really bothered to show that in the Frankenstein, you know, thing.
I really enjoyed that part. Yeah. And it's really cool just to show, like, the two other people who are trying to push that boundary and why it probably shouldn't have been pushed. I like calling it like the dark mentor. He kind of reminded me of Snape a little bit, because he had like the long drape, and
not just the look, but like his relationship to the character. Like, you know, he was kind of helpful, but also had sinister motivations. It was,
and he was sort of like the showstopper for me a little bit in the movie, because he senses, I think he hears Victor talking during one of the lectures, and then they have like a brief conversation. He's kind of like, so you're kind of like me, you want to like do this, but then he also doesn't want him to do it. Like he's like, he wants to know there's other people like him who want to push the boundaries, but he also knows where the boundaries are.
Right, and you get that in Hammer movies a lot better, where the religious aspect is really, you can tell it's dangerous to say or think or write certain things, you know, and they're talking in code to each other, and then all of a sudden they look at you, they're like, oh yeah, we're both maniacs. We don't have to talk in code anymore. Woohoo! Let's just go like raid some graves and.
So I do have another order of discussion that I think is kind of interesting. How the monster came to be.
Okay.
And how weirdly timely it was.
Oh my God, that's right.
So the whole reason Robert
God.
De Niro ends up, his character becomes the monster, is there's an epidemic going around. And what was it? What was it that they were catching in there? It was like
cholera.
Cholera.
Yeah.
And
it was. I mean, it was catching so fast that they were shutting the whole. It was like lockdown. It looked like our lockdown when the pandemic first hit. It started to spread through the movie, and I'm like, oh wow, that's really on the nose. And then the one person wouldn't take the vaccine.
yeah, this movie canonically makes the monster an anti-vaxxer.
Yeah, it was just really chilling to see just how it's handled in that old time frame, right? Like, and how little has really changed about bizarre.
But it's just weird. That
was a very, very weird moment.
He's like denying the vaccine, and then he gets mad and kills.
But it was so right. But it was so obvious, and that was part of the problem. Is everything in this movie was on the nose or obvious. I was joking with you about the lines about, you know, when you're making a Frankenstein movie and you write down that you're having Victor Frankenstein look at the camera and go, oh no, have I gone too far? I get the fuck out.
Like, maybe I should wave my finger through some flames a couple more times while I ponder this inquiry.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's unbelievable how on the nose it was. If you told me in advance that you were making a Frankenstein movie and that you were having Frankenstein's character say that, I would tell you your movie was bad. I wouldn't have to see your movie. You could do that with lots of movies, right?
Like Dracula, he could be like, "You gonna drink that blood?" Leatherface could say, "What you doing with that skin?" You know,
right?
Amityville House would be like, yeah, I don't need to put a realtor sign outside. No, he'd get a spaceship.
Yeah, now he'd get a spaceship. It's funny. There's ways to avoid this on the nose trap. Some of them are just to be good at it. Like, you know, the good version, not exactly horror, but it's the first one that pops into my mind, is Jurassic Park. Like, life will find a way. I mean, that's the message of the movie, but it's not the message of the movie, right? It's the elegant way to say the message of the movie. And life will find a way it applies to the dinosaurs, but also applies to the good people trying to fight and save the people in the park, whatever, which life finding a way against each other is a draw, which means it's going to happen over and over. Hence 25 of these goddamn movies. So, right. So that's the good way to do it. One way to avoid being on the nose is not to know the message of your own movie, like King Kong. At the end of King Kong, they're like, it was beauty. Beauty killed the beast. What? That's what message is this of the movie?
Nope.
Right? So you're not on the nose because you didn't even know what the hell your message was. So like, there's different ways to not do it.
A lot of the reviews said that one of the problems with it, and it's kind of like that. Like, I feel like the director / star of the movie, like, he didn't really grasp that concept too hard because
you're talking about Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah,
he grasped it. You see his abs? He grasped it hard.
Well, the problem is I don't know. I feel like he cranked it to 11 too many times. Like, that's because what you were saying is every scene, like, there was no subtlety in this movie. Like, there was a ton of bad acting, or it's bad acting because it's so over the top.
Right, but see, okay, so that is the mystery at the heart of this movie, man. Kenneth Branagh and Helena Bonham Carter, who have no chemistry together in this movie for some reason, like, saying lines from Frankenstein to each other should be a dream.
Yeah,
right? It should not be a nightmare. It should be a dream. Like, what is going on in this movie? And I drifted over to Bram Stoker's Dracula to try to diagnose it, because it sort of tried to happen over there too. Like, Anthony Hopkins has some not great moments in Bram Stoker's Dracula. So maybe overacting was just in vogue, or maybe Kenneth Branagh saw Anthony Hopkins doing it in Bram Stoker's Dracula and thought, I cracked the code, that's what it is, but got it wrong, because that's not what it was.
Research led him astray.
Because Anthony Hopkins was way overacting, but for some reason he pulled it off, probably because he's fucking Sir Anthony Hopkins. But regardless, that you're like, the scenes are unwatchable. I'm like, but why? These actors eat at home? Like, what's happening?
Well, it's the visuals, and then I'll get to our third over discussion, which I'm very excited for. This movie, I feel like, would be better I mean, you couldn't. I don't think that you would because it is rated R. I don't know why it's rated R. I mean, there's not a lot of like.
That makes no sense.
There's like
either.
a weak.
There's a lot of amniotic fluid.
Well, that's what we're. Give me a straw, Buster. This movie felt like the type of movie when you're in like 8th grade, you see the TV cart getting wheeled in. Like it felt like a movie that you would be forced, like a boring movie you'd be forced to watch in school.
Yes.
I don't know what it is about the cinematography in this movie. There are handfuls of really cool shots. There's a lot of shots that you're like, wow, this is really great. But just as equally, there's a lot of shots where you're like, this is doo-doo.
Yeah, it's
like,
weird. There's shots that look like they might have been pulled out of Warren Beatty's Dick Tracy, but bad, worse than that.
It's so hard to explain. Like this movie is pulling you in each direction and then sewing you back together and putting you in a bath of amniotic fluid full of eels. Which leads me to my third order.
Yes.
Order of discussion.
Order in the court.
Amniotic fluids and abs.
Oh, yeah.
Just before you came over, I was messaging our good friend, Haunting Season,
yes.
and our good friend Trevor,
yes,
about us watching this movie, and both people said,
"I'm excited."
I remember a lot of abs. That was the first thing. So their order of discussion would have abs should be technically should be number one,
right?
And I agree with that.
When the peak order of discussion of your movie, like so, the order of discussion of the birds, the Hitchcock's movie, The Birds is, can humans control anything actually?
Right.
Right. The order of discussion for this is abs.
It starts with abs, amniotic fluid.
That's why your order of discussion thing is so, it illuminates what's wrong, right?
I think it's a great way to filter out. Lot of amniotic fluids in this movie.
Yes.
To a disgusting amount.
Yes.
My favorite thing. So while I did start off saying my favorite thing was the lab, a few problems.
Not the ab, the lab.
Yeah, abs, labs, abs, dabs, and lads. I don't know that the last one didn't really fit. The lab is an attic,
Yes.
right? We don't know who's on the floor below him. But there is a point in the film where the entire attic is like a foot and a half of amniotic fluids.
Yeah, and it makes no sense that it's not just destroying everyone. But
I was hoping they would cut to a scene of like a family getting ready to eat, and like you just see some fluids like dripping on their yams or something. They're like, "Honey, what's that?" And it's like,
or they can film it like that moment in Nice Guys when they throw the dead body over the side of the wedding. It's just like a cascade of amniotic fluid.
Just a nasty amount. And I will say this: if you're listening to the episode, if there's any scene from the movie, I think you should go on YouTube and find. It's the scene when Victor is trying to drag the monster out of the pool of fluids. It is unreal. I felt like I was having a stroke.
It is. So there are certain scenes where if you timed it just right, if you walked in to a room where someone was watching it on their computer on TV at exactly the wrong moment, it would just be super disturbing. And this is an all-timer. Because it's literally just two human forms in goo apparently trying to help each other up and falling down for like 3 consecutive minutes.
It is so long, and
it's like a Nickelodeon gone horribly wrong.
I felt like the editor was listening to like freeform jazz as he cut it. Like he was it makes no sense. Like it is cut. It is the most wonky cut scene I think I've ever seen. It is so jarring. Like a lot of people like to talk about that scene in Taken where it's like 13 shots for Liam Neeson to cut over a fence. This rivals that. I think this might have more cuts than that, and it is just naked Robert De Niro covered in goo, trying to get dragged out by 6-minute abs, and it's failing. It is the weirdest scene I've ever seen. And also, we got to talk about this along with the fluids. Lots of eels.
Yes, eels galore. So the eels,
lightning's out.
Lightning's out. Eels are in.
Eels are in.
I love while we were watching the movie, you kept turning to me and being like, he's just paying off his eel guy.
Yeah, it was that scene from The Office. Who's your worm guy? I kept going. Who's his eel guy? Like, I don't know. Like, I thought they were laying.
Are they the same eels? Are they recharging in between resurrections?
Well, I'd feel bad for him because
different eels. What's happening?
Well, he keeps the eels in like a leather sack hoisted above
Naturally.
the amniotic fluid casket. And then he shoots them. He shoots them in, and it looks like those. Have you ever seen like when they're trying to like bring fish back into like a lake? They have like those big tubes, and they just like shoot salmon into it. It's basically that, but just with electric eels.
They like shirt cannon.
Yeah, they do. They shirt cannon
the eels into the sand or the water.
Yeah, and they're just sitting there in that fluid, just chilling. And I was like, it's funny when I woke up this morning, I was thinking about this movie and just like how like why I was trying to wonder why is it shot half beautifully, half terrible. But then I was like, I had a fish a couple times in my life, and you have to change the water. Those eels are just just hanging out in leathery sacks of amniotic fluid, and somehow they're still alive. I don't know. I think he feeds them like a hunk of meat at one point in time, and you see them, kind of get their spark back.
The movie has Karen feeding of electric eels. I missed that part.
It was weird. I definitely missed hoisting him up during a thunderstorm to get that.
The eels weren't interesting, and they're portable. He brought them into like the loft to do it. It was the futon.
Victor's a little prankster. He's always got a pocket full of eels. You never know. That's why you can't mess with him.
He just resurrects your dog.
He'll just slap you with an eel.
All right, so that's not good.
And then there's one other scene in there that's pretty bad, and it's apparently he controls. Yeah. Well, it was bad enough that we did have quite the discussion over it. It was apparently he's also Storm from X-Men and can control when it's gonna. There's a really weird scene where him and his family are just up at this mountaintop, hanging out, and there's one dark cloud, just full of electrons or whatever.
Yeah, it's like a progressive commercial.
Yeah,
one dark cloud going across a blue sky.
And it's like, is your family ready for whatever life may bring you?
Right, J.K. Simmons is gonna farmers. Is this a cloud?
Yeah. You ever been hanging out with your family? Farmers, we've seen that. Right. And Victor looks at his family and he's randomly he just has like a bunch of these like lightning poles and he sticks them in the ground. They have blankets that lay them down. He's like, everybody lay down. And then he like counts down to like thunder, and you made a comment of like, how does he know when it's gonna strike? Like and then they get up and they kind of just hold their hands up. What was that Kristen oh god, that movie where the world ends and it has Kirsten Dunst.
Antichrist. Not Melancholia. Sorry.
Yeah, where she holds her hands up the lightning there. They kind of do that, and everyone's looking, and they're watching like little shocks of like lightning, electricity, dance around their fingertips.
So this scene could have been so cool, right? Because basically, what's happening here is what they're trying to demonstrate is that Frankenstein's brain is useful for society. The whole point of, not the whole point, it's the greatest horror novel ever written. It's got 1 million points. But one of the main points of the book is that the same thing that humans are bad at things, right, is the point, right? So he can protect people in his close circle, but he's also bad for the people in his close circle, right? Like Vladimir Putin was really good for the rich billionaires in Russia until he wasn't,
right?
Right? Like it's high risk, high reward. So he's a high risk, high reward person to be related to or around or whatever, Frankenstein, right? So the benefit is
high risk
for
sure.
If you're going across a mountain and it's a blue sky and a rogue lightning bolt cloud comes by in this time period, and you're the highest point and you can't get lower, you could get fried and you got nothing to do about it. Like, what are you going to do? You don't know how anything works unless you're Victor Frankenstein. Then you pull out your little mini lightning rods and you set them up all around, and then you divert the lightning, you ground it, and no one else would know how to do that. And your family's saved. Yay. It could have been such a cool scene. It was filmed so weird and bad.
It felt trippy. Like it was just like, why are we doing this? Like
his brain was saving them, and his brain's going to destroy them. That's
see, and that's the problem with this movie, man. Is like it has some like it does have some like interesting, like him battling. Should he push the envelope further?
Right.
Versus, should we just kind of stay in our lane? Like that part of the movie was actually
right, because the elephant in the room is it's trying to do. Remember, there was a big deal at the time. Bram Stoker's Dracula was a big deal at the time that it was going to be faithful to the book,
right?
Which it wasn't, but it was going to be more faithful to the book than other adaptations, right? This was going to be more faithful to the book, so there was a lot more talking and gowns and Downton
Oh my
Abbey
God, yeah.
stuff and like whatever, because it was going to be more
Dancing.
faithful
A lot of dancing.
to to the book, right? So you could tell, and faithful to the book could be good if you do it right, and like that's I mean I don't that's a laudable, you want that in a filmmaker sometimes, right?
Right.
It just did not pay off at all because they didn't know how to do it at all, right? But if you're being faithful to the book, you so you can't ignore the movie, right? Like the movie is so a foundation of the genre you're working in and films in general and like whatever, and culturally the character just came out into the universe and lives with us now. You can't avoid this. Like the spirit of the beehive exists. You can't pretend the movie isn't real. It's like going to the front of a cruise ship and pretending the wind isn't there. Try that. Sometimes
that's a hard one.
Like the movie is pulling this character in a certain direction, and this Branagh's movie's pretending that movie doesn't exist. It's just diving into the book, and that's never gonna work.
No,
it's gonna work as well as pretending the wind in the cruise ship doesn't exist. So.
I will say this though, because whenever you talk about the book, everyone always talks about how the monster is actually very smart and articulate, and I did dig that the movie tried to put the brain of his, who we keep calling the Dark Professor, in there so that he could keep that, that legacy and those ideas alive, and then it gets hit with a giant piece of wood. He's just that's out the window. But
when you say it like that,
I did enjoy
Why would you bother? Do you hear what you just said out loud? You're gonna be faithful to the book. Well, a huge chunk of the book is told from the creature's point of view, like very articulately. So you give the creature a brain. You hit him with a piece of wood, and then he walks around. He's like, "Revenge!"
but
what kind of fucked up compromise is that?
But what I enjoyed was how violent Frankenstein was.
Yes.
Because normally, Frankenstein's terrorizing a town, but it's just him like walking around with his arms out. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like, okay, that's terrorizing the town. Like he just looks weird. No. I did enjoy the fact that he was really brutal in this. It was kind of cool to see like a Frankenstein's monster who was like, I mean, he pulls Frankenstein's wife's heart out and holds it up to him. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
The gore in the movie is not bad.
Pretty good, actually.
It looks pretty good.
Pretty good.
When they're doing the surgery and they cut open the head, and like they're doing that kind of stuff. I thought that was great. Putting the body parts together. The sewing all looked painful.
Yeah, even the creatures' designs themselves, except for the epic Helena Bonham Carter fail, were really good. I mean, except if you got too close on them, it got a little weird. But basically, for what it was going for, I thought it was good.
What did you think about Robert De Niro as the monster?
Just terrible. I mean, he had no chance because he was encased in this outfit or this design or whatever. Like, remember, Boris Karloff is just acting with body language.
Yeah.
Ever so it's not, that you can't. It's hard to do the. That's not what he's built for. He's not Kane Hodder. He's Robert De Niro.
It got worse when he started talking. When you just looked at him at first, like I thought, all right, this will
be okay.
It's pretty neat. But then at the end, when he starts to like look through the journal and become a little bit more articulate.
Yep.
so doesn't the Robert De Niro voice that everybody knows? He's starting to talk, and all you can hear is Robert De Niro.
Yeah, catching a cab.
Yeah, and it totally just it pulls you out so hard, and like that did kind of bite.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's not. I don't think there's anyone in the world. I don't think Andy Serkis. I don't think you could put anyone there into that situation with the way this movie was done. And have them pull off that character. There's just no way to make that work because the movie doesn't know what it is. It's two scripts sewn together. It's two ideas trying to.
Oh, that's another interesting thing.
Frank Darabont.
Frank Darabont's name is credited with it,
right?
But what you said, he said something like he.
There's a lot. There's gonna be people a lot more knowledgeable on all that than me. My impression from it is that it was sort of like a David Fincher Alien 3 situation. Like I tried, but they didn't use what I was trying that much. And the interesting thing, this is an older thing that I had found, so I don't know what the status of this is now, but it said that Guillermo del Toro one of his dream projects was to redo this Mary Shelley's Frankenstein with Frank Darabont's actual script and not the way this movie
I wonder if that's available online.
Was done. What do you mean?
I wonder if that script, like the one that he wrote, is.
I don't.
Because apparently London After I went on a weird London After.
Oh, I
Midnight
love
trip.
this.
Apparently that script is available, and I think was it Turner Classic Movies or something like that. Like they like sort of did like a play-ish kind of thing, recreating it.
I heard that. Yeah.
But I think it was like 21 minutes shorter than the actual runtime
Right.
of the movie, which I can go on that rabbit hole later. But I do think the Frank Darabont thing is interesting because a few years after that, like Green Mile comes out, and that's pretty good.
Well, I mean, yeah, Mist. I mean, this guy's like
He's like really talented. He puts his name on something.
The only like the amazing season of Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Come on now.
No, that's all really good stuff. I would be cool if Guillermo del Toro did.
Right.
Frank. I mean, if you say Guillermo del Toro and Frankenstein, I don't think anyone's gonna be like,
No.
man, that guy, does he do creatures? I'm not sure.
He actually did the introduction to the Frankenstein, the edition of the Penguin Classic. He did a general introduction for that series.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know he loves those monsters like nothing else.
I would kill to see that. That would be pretty nice.
But anyways, but what it shows is that this movie starts as one thing, tries to become something else, which is sort of fitting for its subject matter, but not for good movies.
The plank that hit.
That's how you make ramshackle monsters, but it's not how you make real efficient.
The plank that hit Frankenstein's head when it hit the producers and the director and everyone. They kind of forgot what they were.
But here's the thing: I got to admit, I don't know if we're done or whatever. But I was just gonna say because I'll forget it. I know we're not at the rating yet, but I'm telling you, if this movie comes on 5 years from now somewhere in a certain segments of this movie, I'll watch some of it. And I don't usually do that with movies I didn't like. So there's something in here likable.
I agree with you.
There's something likable in here.
There is something likable. I think it's because there are scenes that are really good. There are sets that are really good. There are shots that are really good.
What's the best moment in this movie?
Oh fuck!
Because to me, it's weird because it fell apart. So it's not even a whole moment. But the thing you're saying when Frankenstein's monster pulls out her heart, shows it to him, and then leaps out. And there's this moment where because part of what's disappointing about this movie to me was, the amazing kind of like party village scenes in the original Frankensteins. There's nothing with the gravitas of the parent walking with the child down the street, where you're getting a sense of what that village is like, but also how horrendous this moment is at the same time, which is weird because that movie was made for like $7 compared to the movie we're watching now, and the movie we're watching now loses to that, which is weird that it could.
Yeah.
But it's not, you don't get like the moments like that. But when he leapt out and you saw this beautiful thing all falling apart, like the flames and the terror and the whatever framed against the creature, just like unpredictably leaping out into the darkness. It was a cool shot. And then it went. But I love that moment. I also like when De Niro says he didn't give me a name. That hit me. That was that's not in other Frankensteins. And when he's sitting there next to his dead critter, which was shot ridiculously, like he's just sitting there next to him, like he found him on a couch or whatever, but he's like sitting next to him, and the people find him next to dead Kenneth Branagh and the creatures, and they're like, and he looks at him, and now he's dead, so that's his father, and he has no other parents,
right? So
he's nameless forever now. Right. And with the jokes about Frankenstein's creature and screwing up the name or whatever, like they took that name thing and made it hit. Like I
agree with that.
That's a home run. That's my other favorite moment.
My favorite moment in the movie would probably be the argument that Victor has with the teacher at the college.
Oh shit!
That scene was great. I don't know the name of the actor who played the professor. It wasn't the John Cleese.
Right. No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
The professor who wanted to stick to the book.
Yeah.
Stick to
Stop
physics.
being a rebel.
Yeah. That conversation and that back and forth, I thought was really good.
That was a great scene. Although I kept getting distracted by the Geneva hate. This movie hates the city of Geneva, and it's so funny because they keep saying it like, we finally got everything in order. This town has settled down, and we're fine. Oh, wait, who's that coming down the road? Oh, God damn it, it's Victor Frankenstein of Geneva. Like, you're supposed to be hitting Frankenstein, not Geneva. Like, what's happening here?
I wonder. I was trying to look it up while you were saying that. I forgot. I was like, do they not like Godiva chocolate? But I don't know if Godiva chocolate's made in Geneva. I just pulling that out of my ass.
I don't know, but this city, this movie unaccountably hits Geneva. But I suspect Geneva stands for like the class and establishment, and the reverse of class and establishment, and Geneva's stood for like the It's like, what would this be in America? It would have been like Berkeley in the 60s. Geneva is probably their Berkeley. Go figure.
But I'll say in that scene, because there's a lot of other scenes where the emotions and acting are jacked up to an 11 when they should be at like a 6. They should just really bring it down. That was the one scene where I felt like they did heighten it, and it warranted that level of dialogue and discussion and heat throwing at each other. Because then it's also, he's the guy who's questioning the whole morale of what Victor's doing and bringing some sense. He's bringing sense to it, but at the same time, like, you agree. It's the reason I like it is you agree with both. Right. You're like, stick to what we know, work within the boundaries of physics, but
if you didn't know where this story was headed, you would 100% agree with Victor. But
yes,
knowing where the story is headed, you now agree with both,
and that's why I like that scene. It gave you a little bit of something for both characters. It was the best acted scene because people got to scream and it made sense and not scream. They didn't run out like Bilbo Baggins did on the stairs covered in blood, who Jenny kept calling Bobo Baggins, which is now
my god, my contact almost fell out from laughing.
His new name is now forever Bobo Baggins. Where do we have to rate it?
This is a sewn in half movie. I'm gonna push it up 1 inch to 50. It's exactly a 50. It's exactly divided against.
Ooh, that's itself.
It's a draw. This movie is a draw against itself. It gained 1% to me.
Wow, that's interesting. Wow, I think I'm gonna steal that. I'm gonna piggyback. I mean, honestly,
what other answer could there be?
Yeah, I don't. That's the thing is, I honestly, I don't know,
because it's lower in some aggregator, and there's some, and I get it. Like
on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics like 36.
I have sat through movies that I thought were tragically badly executed at the same level of this, and had 1/3 of the good time I had with this for some reason. So
yeah, and we kept
good time score, better.
We kept saying Riff Tracks needs to do this.
Yeah, if they haven't, I don't know that they haven't, but they.
I'll look it up.
And I just to cleanse the palate, I gotta say, I'm a huge Shakespeare fan. Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet, which I saw literally in the theater, which is more than 4 hours. I had an intermission.
Wow.
Right? Is amazing. Has everybody in Hollywood. Before the internet, when you had to do the Kevin Bacon connection game, this was the movie. This was the movie this movie had Jack Lemmon, Robin Williams. This movie had, for some reason, everyone is in. Charlton Heston. It had young, it had old. Everyone's in this movie. Robin Williams doing Shakespeare is amazing.
I want to see that.
Like legitimately serious Shakespeare. Him doing it is amazing, by the way. So Kenneth Branagh is really accomplished. My favorite thing he did was Conspiracy, which is an HBO production of like a story about Nazi Germany or whatever, which is really chilling. Don't watch it at a depressing time like now. Watch it later. But it's an incredible, he's not bad. He's not a bad actor. I don't know, I don't want to hate on everyone in this movie. They're all very talented. This movie is just, this happens with artistic enterprises that are huge collaborations. Sometimes they collapse against themselves in the middle, and it's a 50%.
And I didn't realize this until we watched this and we started talking about his other films. Mm-hmm. Like he did Cinderella.
Yeah, done tons of shit. Modern.
He works with a composer who I really like named Patrick Doyle.
Okay.
The music in the movie's not too bad. There's nothing that really stands out. Oh, no, there are a lot of scenes. That's not true. I completely just lied to everyone. There are a lot of scenes where there's just music playing and it's not serving the movie or anything. Strange. And it's just kind of there. Yeah. That's why it feels like one of those movies they would have shown you in school where you're like, this is kind of boring because they're playing like classical music and you're like, what is that? What's this? But Patrick Doyle has the Cinderella soundtrack. There are some great.
Shit!
I'll be honest.
Unexpected
there's a song I can't pronounce it. It's love. How do you say that? Do you know French better than I do?
Probably not. Which one? The one you have highlighted?
Yeah.
I know Laval's L'Amour.
Yeah, whatever that song is. Listen to that one. That is a great song. I haven't even seen the Cinderella movie, but I got that song on my Spotify. Like it is like that composer is great.
Definitely, after this episode, do yourself a favor and sit down and watch consecutively Cinderella and Conspiracy. You'll have a great. You'll have a great time.
And you'll feel great, and then Hamlet, and we'll just fill up the rest of your
Hamlet.
Yeah,
and then just tune into our next episode next week.
And by the time it ends,
loading,
we'll be finishing up. We'll be finishing the next one. So, all right, well,
do we want to? Is there more Horror Hotel updates, or are we?
Absolutely. This is the month to get it.
Oh, right, we're in March now.
We're in March. Yeah, we have a lot of marketing stuff.
Time to check into a new hotel, spring cleaning, and
check it out. It's still trending on Amazon. It's doing really well. Buy it. Get the if you're an Audible person like me, I get all my I haven't read like a book
right
in forever. Apparently when we talked about this, when I open a book, I just start seeing lines between words. I don't know. I got to get that diagnosed. I don't know what it is. I really don't. I just start seeing lines and I start tripping.
Someone let Nick know what that is in a review.
Yeah, does anyone else do that? Anyways, audiobooks for the win. The audiobook production is amazing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But
really good.
But definitely the audiobook. So here's we're promoting two sides of this now. So I am super pro the audiobook for this. Everything he said is totally true. But the cover of this book is so good.
It's very good. I just
had to have it on my shelf. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so get one of each. Like,
yeah, get one. Get one of each. Snap. Right to it.
All right.
And until next time, stay scary. Watch a bunch of horror movies. Read a bunch of horror books. Well, which is very fitting for Frankenstein.
Indeed.
That is full. That is how we like to end the show.
It's alive, or as this character said in this. What's his version of this one?
Oh,
live. He just keeps screaming, live.
Oh God. And if you find yourself covered in any kind of any kind of fluids, hey now, wash yourself off and watch some horror movies. Talk to you guys next time. Bye.